a lot of creative people, we do similar things every time we work. And that could be causing you the most problems of everything that you're experiencing right now. Now, I realized this recently. I was working on a mix and I pulled up the same things I always do. I did the whole mix. A day later, I got new speakers that had arrived. So if you're familiar with what's going on with me, you know I just got ATC 50s up and on the stands. I'm preparing a video on that soon, but it's taking a while. So I want to share with you what happened. I decided, what would happen if I mix this song from scratch? Now that I can hear through these speakers instead of the speakers I was using, which was Barefoot 01s. So I took every plugin off, took all automation back to zero, and I said, here we go. Now, just as I was about to reach for the same thing I always reach for, I decided I'm going to use something else, because that, for some reason, just hit me as that will make more of a difference in the sound than everything else I could possibly do, which would just put on other things. When we work creatively and we're touching the same knobs all the time, like I would with the UC1, controlling my SSL channel strips. I'm using SSL on everything. It's right here at my fingertips. That causes me to do the same things. I see a vocal, I do the same thing. I hear a guitar, I do the same thing. When we're mixing, we're supposed to be zooming out and getting a sense of how is everything interacting. This is a cocktail. It's moving all around. It's combusting with itself. It's like, what is really happening here? What does this want to do? What is it doing naturally? What should I make it lean towards? Where should I sculpt? What should not? I want to be thinking on the whole picture. And I found that although some people will tell you that the physical muscle memory act of using the same things all the time really does take their brain out of it and make it where they're just reacting on instinct, I actually found it to be the opposite. I found it to be, I'm reacting based on a muscle memory of what has worked, or what has not even worked, but what have I done over the last so many mixes that have caused me to be, at the end of them, I'm never thrilled with the mix. I'm always like, it's okay. I wish it could be like, most of us, I think, are like this. Maybe I'm not the only one, but my point is, like, I always feel like I could do better. And that's why I stress the fact that as perfectionists, most of us who do what we do are perfectionists. So we have to get out of that mindset. We have to realize that most of the stuff we worry about does not matter. Most of the stuff we're concerned about, nobody's ever going to hear. We need to really focus on the big stuff and make that as good as we can make it, and know what the difference is, and also realize that one day you'll be happy if, and this is what I found out by doing this the other day, I will be happy at the end of a mix when I am happy during the course of that mix, as I'm working on it. If it feels fun to me, if it feels like, when I turn this, what's going to happen? It's excitement. Well, I wonder if it'll be better, worse. It's like this experiment feeling where you never know what's really going to happen. And you get that by trying new things. So for me, I tried a 1081, which I used 10 years ago, and I pulled up that plugin that I bought 10 years ago and hardly ever used. And it's not a UAD, it's actually a T-Rax 1081. And I pulled up Metric Halo Channel Strip. I'm like, these are two plugins that I, never use. Perfect. So I threw them on, and if anybody's familiar with the 1081, you already know. And the reason I thought that way was because Chad Blake uses it all the time. I was about to say Chad Smith, but he's playing drums. He probably doesn't have a much use for a 1081, but maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe if you know him, maybe let me know. But the point is, 1081 is a very, very versatile Neve with that old school flavor, but more versatility. So it's like a 1073, but more versatile. So that's why Chad Blake's using it on a lot of things, because it just allows him the ability to get more frequency choices, carve what he needs to, but it's really a personality plugin. And it's a color and a flavor plugin. And I use the Metric Halo Channel Strip for cutting things out. Now, what I was using is not relevant because you could use anything. There's not like some magic to those two specific plugins, although I have to tell you, the end result for me, like, I don't even care what it sounds like out of this room. What I was experiencing while doing the whole thing was like, wow, this feels so good because I'm literally zooming in mentally to look at the plugin and be like, all right, so like what frequency is that? Because I'm not familiar. I don't have it all memorized. So I'm almost more focused on every click that I make. I'm more focused on every turn of every knob because I really am like in tune with trying to hear what it's doing rather than just muscle memory taking over and sending me down a path that I might not be really happy with at the end. This was causing me to be so present. That's the difference. And between using like that on a thing that I wasn't familiar with, and even with the metric halo channel strip, because I wasn't so familiar with where everything was, it took me a little longer, which actually didn't work against me. It worked for me because now I'm paying more attention. I'm paying more attention, and every time I do anything, I'm listening for the result, and I'm doing a zoom out mental and zoom in mental thing. And that is actually, it made it where the whole time I was excited. I did way more manipulation of automation on the mix than I would typically do, and I did way less tweaking of the plugins than I usually do, mainly because there are less choices. Like with a 1081, there's a limited set of choices. So this is what I'm sort of just want to push and slam home, is that working in this other way forced me to work differently than I usually do, which brought excitement, which brought me to the end of the mix happier and brings this life into me that I'm showing you, which is literally made it a more enjoyable day to work. And just that right there, if you can get that going consistently enough, you will be a happier person. You will be a better mixer probably because you're happier, or whatever you do if you don't mix. Just change up your tools, and it'll force you to learn a new tool, which will actually make you more involved. All of a sudden, things are like brand new again to you. So what I realize is it's not even a magic to using those two things for me all the time. It's a question of use those until I'm bored and then switch them up to something else, which will then force me to listen again and be more in tune again and just come back to that point. Because this will last for a little bit. Like I have a feeling I'm going to use these for a little bit. And then it'll just become something I'll use every once in a while, and I'll switch to something else that's also exciting. Because what we do is so mental. If you're having a bad time, or if you think that you are not good, you will not get to the end and be happy no matter what. Whereas if you think that this is fun and it's exciting and you're able to hear things you didn't hear before and you're able to get a different result by twisting certain knobs that you didn't get before, you will literally say to yourself, this is fun. And then at the end, you will be like, I'm good because this is fun and it must be good. The proof will be in the pudding as soon as you switch stuff on your own stuff. All right, because this really, what I'm telling you, all this has nothing to do with the actual difference at the end. What it has to do with how you feel while you're doing it, because that will cause you to do more work the next day. Because like we say, this compounds on itself. So if you feel good when you're done with that mix, you will feel better the next day when you start another one. You will feel better the next day. And every time you do more and more work, you get better and better. So if we could hope to get one thing from ourselves every day, it should be to feel good at the end of the day for how much work we put in, and feel good about while we were doing it. It was great. It was exciting. It was fun. It was an experiment. Who knew what was going to happen? And now tried this new thing, this new method of thinking, and now you're happy at the end of the day. So you wake up the next day wanting to do it again. That will automatically put you in the ring with being able to be great, because you won't get beaten down by yourself, your own negative self-talk, and all the things that don't matter. I'm telling you, if you could just ignore all the people, and when I say all the people, I mean the voices in your own head mostly that are telling you that you ain't good and that, somebody else is lucky and you're just not lucky. If you could just ignore all those voices, you would be so much farther towards your goal. You would be closer to it. And that's really the goal for me, is how do I get myself to feel great every day consistently? And if it's the goal for you, that's all you need to get there, in my opinion. A big step is to change up what you're doing. Just change it. At first, you won't know where any knobs are, just like I didn't. At first, you'll throw the vision channel strip on, which I hardly ever used, and you'll click a bunch of things and be like, why can't I hear it? And then you'll realize you got to click on the bottom of the, it's like each module on the thing has an on button. It's like you got to do it to realize it, and while you're doing it, the whole thing is exciting and fun, and even the why can't I hear it can be fun. And there's definitely a magic, just so everyone knows, there's a little bit of a magic to the metric halo channel strip. And I can tell you, in my opinion, what it is. It's the fact that when you make cuts and boosts, there's just something about the way the EQ is written in there that makes things have it's got like a no sound bad fail safe. This no sound bad, Superman no home. It's no home. It's just no matter what you do, it doesn't sound bad. And it's so weird to say that, but I'm using it for corrective purposes. So I'm notching things out, and it's almost like the most narrow cue you can do is a natural sounding cue. And we all know if we've used any, like Pro Q3 or something, you could get into some trouble with pushing that a few different ways, which is fine. It's like a sports car. You can do a lot with it, so better be a good driver. But the point is, the less choices means you move a little quicker, just like with the 1081. Less choices means your brain now thinks in terms of, okay, well, if I'm boosting this one here, I got to boost that one click down so that we get a little more width from left to right. There's just less thinking, less like, is a little better there, a little worse there. It's just less of that, which for me translated to more exciting a little bit. And I did not miss in the least not touching these things in front of me, because that was one thing I was like, oh man, I'm gonna feel so weird not reaching out my hand to touch the knobs. Meant nothing. Meant absolutely nothing. You know what meant something was at the end when I compared it to the other mix that I did with the SSL channel strips, and I thought to myself, wow, I don't know if it's because of these two new things that I was using, because of the excitement in life, or because of the new speakers that I used to mix this from scratch. But no matter how I look at it, this sounds better than that. Maybe that, something added up to me being really happy at the end. And I just want you guys to experience some happiness on a day-to-day basis. Don't be so hard on yourself. And don't be afraid to try these new things. Whenever anyone does anything with physical muscle memory, you don't know where the knobs are until you figure it out. If you're swinging a baseball bat and you do it wrong, but it works in Little League, and then you get older and then it doesn't work anymore, you have to learn how to do it right. Somebody's got to teach you how to do it right to be able to make it work and get the kinks out of your swing. It's no different. You just know how to do some things, yeah, but then when you try to do other things and it doesn't work, you got to get the kinks out of how you're working, which really means get comfortable with a lot of different tools. That's how I look at it too. I'm not saying you always need to buy the newest plugin or any of that. I'm just saying if you're in a rut and you're using the same stuff all the time, don't. Focus on being a little unaware of what will happen when you turn knobs because you picked a new plugin and you don't know which side is the low end on and which side is the high end on. I'm used to seeing a lot of stuff vertical, and now it's coming at me horizontal, and it was just like, oh, that's interesting. That side is high. That side's low. You know what I mean? And the camera's flipped, it's flipped for you guys. So it's probably the opposite of what I just pointed. But for me on my screen, this side is the highs. It's just like, this should be the lows. What's going on? But what I'm saying is that the first couple clicks, it's like, where is everything? Where's the on switch? How do you make this thing make butter? Like it was an experience. So I'm excited by it. You can be too. All right. Let me know what you use. I'm curious what your things you use all the time. And then now what are you going to use? What did you always want to try that you're going to use? And don't be afraid if it's old. The two things I used were OG stuff. Do something new. I want to hear what you're using. I want to hear what you're going to use. Throw it in the comments. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.